All right, it's time for another exciting video, and I know I always say that. This is sort of part 2 of my retrofit, where I go back and look at a video I did months ago and go, ugh! And so I'm doing this week, or today, I'm doing how to take a winning deposition 2.0, building on and correcting and fixing the S-storm that was the first video I did. Hopefully this is better. A couple of things I want you to remember. Simplicity. 5 words. Where, what, why, who, and when. Crucial research curiosity goes through the prism of where, what, why, who, and when. Any question you have, you should go through those curious words. So curiosity does not kill the cat. It kills the deponent in this case. When you do a deposition, use respect, follow the rules. Importantly, know the case. Now in this video, I'm going to attach to this video in my membership website, collectionstoppersolutions.com, several things to help you. In Word template, look for deposition notice that I've attached to this video, including LVNV funding. There's probably something from Midland Credit. There's some credited deposition notices. You'll also find a velocity and DNF and I think an MCM transcript of depositions that I've conducted through the years. So they may be fun to look at and to see if I actually follow my own rules that I'm about to give you today. My actual notes, what do I mean by that? Before I do a deposition, after I've done all the research, I sit in front of the computer and I kind of vomit onto my screen, not literally, but I just write everything so that I can then condense what I know and condense it again. And so you'll see my notes attached to the video of how I prep. So when you go into your deposition, prep the same way. Just think about from beginning to end what you want to ask. It's sort of like a football coach that sketches out all the plays he's going to do in certain situations. That's what you're going to do as a safety net. But I don't want you depending on that. It's more of a formulation of your brain and how you ask questions. You'll have my show notes. My show notes will, of course, be my directions to you on how to follow what I'm about to tell you verbally. So a dep notice is your invitation to the other side, usually a debt collector, or in most cases it's an affiant, the person that signs on the affidavit. Those are the most fun, and I'm going to say to you 70% of my depositions are in that realm, either an affiant or someone that signed off on a bill of sale. My popular one right now is a lady called Lynn Fisher. She's signing off on LVNV funding documents, and she's showing up in other places, usually for Synchrony Bank, and she's signing for all these other entities with no authority, at least none that I can see. So I like to depose her as quickly as I can, and that also settles cases quickly. So there's a certain approach that you take. A lot of attorneys will tell you, well, you've got to do discovery, and you've got to do this, and you've got to set yourself up to ask the right questions. Not in a debt collection case. Mostly cases against you are account-stated statute cases, meaning they don't have the original contract, they've got an affiant attached. And then it's an affiant-based account-stated statute, he or she substitute for the actual contract, or even assignments. Just look at any of your Midland Credit, some LVNV funding. A lot of those major debt buyers have these kind of mill affiants. So the first thing you can do as soon as you're allowed is start pecking away. I want to depose the affiant, who, by the way, they want to get rid of fast, because she was only put there to win when you don't answer the lawsuit, and then they can go and get a default and a default judgment in front of the judge. Look, judge, we got an affidavit. So when you start wanting to depose that person, that's fun. Think deer in the headlights. And you can see in my velocity transcript where I deposed a affiant. She had no clue. And generally they don't, because they're not there to prove anything for themselves. They don't even know what they're signing onto. At least that's my opinion. So go after the affiant. Don't be shy in your dep notice. What do you want to know? Put it in your dep notice. There's no real format other than the mechanism in your brain that is curious. Curiosity rides through all of these rules and questions that I'm going to give you. Your most human condition, well, one of the most important human conditions is to be curious. We're all human, and use that curiosity skill. You have it. Just ask why, where, when, how, and who. I hope I got them all. Where, what, why, who, and when. And that is all curiosity-based questions. You generally know the answers, but you want to know if they know, because generally a affiant is saying XYZ is true, I'm aware of all the records. Then you go ask her, when did you become aware of these? When did you sign this? And they'll break down very quickly, because they're not there to answer a deposition questions when they sign that affidavit. They're just signing. I won't name a big debt buy, but they just have them sit in the room. Next. They're not even creating these depositions or reviewing anything as far as I can tell. So go after them in that week, that Achilles heel that most debt buyers have. They just slap on an affidavit. They don't expect you're going to go after them, but you will be going after them. That'll get the case settled very quickly. In your dep notice, don't use general flowery language, because that's what you'll get on the other end. If you're seeking a custodian of records and you go, tell me, from beginning to end, tell me this. No. I want it right in the deposition what you want and what you expect. And also, a deposition notice, you can attach what's called a subpoena ducis tecum, which means give me the records. So you can get a free kind of discovery approach there. And if that person signed off on having personal knowledge on records, which is every affiant of an affidavit that's attached to the collection lawsuit against you, you're entitled to see what they looked at and when and how and who created those documents. That's always fun. I won't get into this, but there's another type of witness called a corporation. Most attorneys call them 30B6 witnesses. That's usually a federal nomenclature, which is the federal rule, 30B6. The nice thing about that, it's a corporation deposition, and what you do, you go, I want to know somebody that knows all XYZ records. Who has created all the affidavits in the last month, or who's in charge of that, or who created the affidavit and the records and the sales documents in the case against me. So you don't know who that is in the corporation, but the 30B6 deposition is a notice to the other side, and they are duty bound to have the right person to answer that question, or they're in a lot of trouble. Because if the wrong person shows up that doesn't know anything, and that's the beauty of the 30B6 notice, and there are state equivalents. If they show up and not know anything, and you gave them specific heads up, detailed expectations of what you wanted to be deposed upon and examined, the courts treat it as though the person didn't show, and then you get sanctions for not showing. So that's a fun little gem if you're going after corporate witnesses. I'm not going to go too deep about that. This is about deposing people. You will be surprised how little most opponents know. You think, hell, you gave them 30 days notice. Didn't the attorney tell them what's going on? I'm just going to tell you, the two things I notice in doing depositions. Number one, the person doesn't know anything. Not because the attorney said it's better not to know anything, because they clearly don't know what's going on, even though, again, the attorney had time to clue them in. And secondly, I don't know how to put this, but a lot of times these people that I'm deposing are the general manager of a debt portfolio that's national, or in charge of a certain group that's doing all the securitization, and their education will be very limited for the amount of work that they're required to do. And that can get weird because I'm always flabbergasted of the wrong people are in these powerful positions. But that just might be a product of most debt collection lawsuits not taken seriously by the writers, because they know most of the debts are going to get, 90% of the cases are going to get defaulted. Maybe that's it. So some of the fun things I do, and this is going to sound weird until it isn't, when you do a deposition, the first thing that happens is a court reporter swears the deponent under oath. I'll question them on that oath. And it goes the following. I'll say, oh, I just saw you swore you held your hand up. What did you mean by that? Oh, I was swearing that I would tell the truth. To whom were you swearing to? Well, to God. Oh, really? So that's what you believe you're doing. You're holding your hand up and you believe God is, hear me out, watching you. Yes, I do. So if you lie, what is the punishment? Well, God will be mad at me and I wouldn't do that. But if you do, will you be forgiven? Yes, I will. So it's possible then that you could lie in this deposition and know that who cares? You're going to be forgiven for lying. That's really cringy. What I just said to you is cringy. But what does that, why am I doing that? Because I'm letting that person know you're in front of a crazy person. I'm already asking you about something so simple as the oath. So, and why I do that is I set the tone. I am respectful, I do my job, but I'm a crazy person as far as you're concerned. And the more that they want to get out from in front of me, the more they're going to give me what I want just to get out from under. I've done it. I've done the math. So, but what I do after that is I talk the witness up. I tell them, oh, so you have this experience. You've done great. You looks like you're the person, the go-to person. And they like that. It's flowering their ego. Then when you ask them questions about details, they can't go, I don't know that. You just spent 20 minutes telling me how great you are. So you pump up their ego. They think they're safe from the crazy person again. And then you come in for the kill. And you can see it on their face, like, oh, shoot. I just told him that I know all the ins and outs of this. So that's some fun thing you can do. But I would, again, ask that you be human about this whole thing. Use your eyes. Use your stomach. Nonverbal communication is extremely important in these depositions. When I'm deposing someone and I watch for ticks, it's just my stupid brain the way it is. I see stuff. And if I start seeing certain ticks, I guess I'm a poker player that doesn't play poker, but I'll see ticks on certain questions where I know they're probably lying, or I'll see they'll start moving their chair back and forth like that when things get tough. Half hour into this thing, if I see that chair going back, I know they're lying. It's just, but use your stomach. You'll feel it. You'll see it. Nonverbal communication is incredibly important, which is ironic if you think about it, because this is all about asking questions. But be an observer. Trust your instincts. Number one advice is to have a goal. Don't be sitting in front of somebody without knowing what you want. And how do you make sure you keep yourself on the straight and narrow? Your deposition notice should be everything that you want. And you can take your own deposition notice, cut and paste it into a separate piece of paper, and put boxes next to each inquiry. Once you get it, hit it and move on. Hit it and move on. Hit it and move on. Don't stick around, because young attorneys, what they do is when they get a great answer, it's so tough in this business because there's very few wins and victories compared to the daily onslaught of negativity, that you're like, oh, I'm going to go in and ask that question again. You keep asking the same question because you love the result. You're going to tip off the other attorney, and you're also going to tip off the deponent who's going to start suddenly rehabbing herself. So hit it and move on. Once you hit your goal, boom, hit it and move on. Remember this. I'm going to give you a mnemonic. Gist. Gist. Let's put it up, Cindy. G-I-S-T. You got to have a goal. What are you doing in front of this person? What is your quest? And I've said this in other videos, behind the questions. You must have a quest to ask a question. Don't waste this person's time or your own. And by the way, doing depositions can get expensive if you order the transcript. So you need to shorten that bad boy up. Information research is everything. Go on social media and learn about this person. A couple of fun things I've done deponents of bank managers, very rarefied air, where 10 years ago the guy was doing a beer bong and there's a picture of him. So I'm not going to say which attorney did this, but one attorney blew a picture up of that person doing the beer bong and put it right next to him or her while he was deposing that bank manager. I'm not going to say who did that. It shakes them up. They just want to get away from you, give you what you want, and get the heck out of there. But also, information search or research, in the gist, you can find, like for example, LinkedIn is a good one because if you read their biography, a lot of times it reads like they're looking for another job. You know what I mean? You put up there, it's a resume. And so I'll go in and they're the deponent for, let's say, Bank of America, but they're clearly looking to get out of there and work somewhere else. So I'll call them on it. It's embarrassing. So you want them to be shook up a little so you can get what you want, because the other side of that is they're there to avoid the truth. So as long as you follow the rules and remain respectful, you can go around the edges and shake them up a bit. GIS, set the tone. This is your deposition, and how you set the tone is you don't take any nonsense. For example, if you're asking questions and the opponent keeps looking to the attorney, put it on the record. Why are you looking at him? I'm asking you the questions. So you do it strongly and sternly, but respectfully. You set the tone. Another thing with attorneys, BS objections. If an attorney, especially an unknowledgeable attorney or a knowledgeable attorney that's being a jerk, makes frequent wrong objections. They'll say like, objection, foundation. I'll stop and go, what about the question that didn't have the proper foundation? And 9 times out of 10, they can't answer that because they weren't saying there was a poor foundation for my question. They were just throwing stuff out to either shake me up or to, and this happens, or to tell the deponent, their client, not to answer that. So there's little tricks like that. So you got to set the tone. And one of the things when someone objects, please remember this, the deponent still has to answer. I see young attorneys that will go, they'll ask a question to the deponent, the other attorney object, and they'll move on. I've seen that, and I'm like, what are you, crazy? Because the deponent has to answer they lost the deposition, by the way. When you are shaken up by a mere objection and you move on, you've just lost the deposition. So if somebody objects, you wait politely until the objection is finished, and you go, you got to answer, because they do. No matter what you ask, as long as it's, and this is easy to do, as long as it's relevant and it's not protected like attorney-client privilege or what did you tell your priest, they have to answer. So when I get an objection, I'll say, go ahead and answer. And they'll look at me like, I don't have to answer you. He said because the attorney doesn't sit down, in my experience, and train their own client. Sometimes it's the first time they've met the client, is my deposition. So be forceful. Go, you still have to answer. And you got to get them into, you are in charge. You got to set the tone. I've actually I can see the objection. I go, don't listen to him. And boom. And after a while, they'll start seeing that I'm in charge, and you have got to set the tone. Best thing, as I talked about this before, using your ears and your stomach. These are all body part curiosity approaches. 2 ears, 1 mouth. 2 ears, 1 mouth. Young attorneys, egotistical, love to hear themselves talk. You can see it on sports shows. Listen to how a sports newscaster or journalist interviews. He'll load it up with statistics and times he saw the guy score goals, because he's really making it about him. And then he'll go, I'm curious, and then ask a silly question that didn't need all that fronting, as they say in the world. Don't be that guy. 2 ears, 1 mouth. What you hear is more important than what you say. Let me repeat that. What you hear is more important than what you say. Because if you get what you want, get the hell out of there. If you don't get what you want, but you may get something else, then focus on that. 2 ears, 1 mouth. So that's GIST, G-I-S-T. This is your deposition, as I said. So the tone is, I am in charge here. Remember, curiosity, the simple techniques I give you. Where, what, who, why, and when. I swear, you can go into any deposition, blindfold me, put sound barriers in my ears, put me in a chair, take everything off, put a guy in front of me, and then say, Parker, go depose this guy. I'll get something out of them. Either I've got the technique, or where, what, why, who, and when is going to give me so much information that then is going to bear more information. Eventually I'll, boom, peg them down to what I need. So you can do that too. So have a goal list. A goal list is everything. And don't be afraid that once your goals are met, to get the heck out of there. Sometimes I have a goal list and I get the stuff in 45 minutes and I'm like, well, I'm here anyway. Dumb. Get it and move on, because if you stay too long, you may get a guy, you may tip off the other attorney and he will become curious as to why or what. A lot of times attorneys, a little way into the deposition, they basically will fall asleep. It'll start out like a football game. All the sides are hitting each other really fast, and after 5-10 minutes, they stop hitting each other and it just slows down. That's how a deposition is. Everybody's gonna be objecting, you can't do this, and blah, blah, and then it slows down. They'll fall asleep. So get what you need while this guy's asleep, and then get out of there. If you get your goals met, please hit it and move on. Hit it and move on. So have your list of goals, and then once you've got them, move on. By the way, if it becomes obvious you're never going to get 1 or 2 of your goals met because they're just being rude or evasive, that's all right. Do your best and then make a record. Anytime you got a problem in a deposition, anytime with it, this guy's being too objectionable, he's being rude or harassing, you go, excuse me, could you please stop being harassing? Could you stop being so rude? Could you stop yelling? Because the transcript doesn't say Bob was yelling really loud and you just put it on the record. So if it is clear that the attorney and the deponent are ganging up not to answer reasonable questions, put that on the record, and you've got to go in front of the judge. Remember nonverbal, I want to touch on that again. And that goes both ways. You setting a tone and kind of being strong and insistent is a nonverbal approach to the other side. So avoid speaking objections. So if someone says, my client's not going to answer that because that was objectionable and they weren't at the river when you said they were. Well, he just told the deponent, and then sure as heck I'll ask and they'll go, well, I wasn't at the river that day. I've seen that. You'll see that. So those are called talking objections. They're not allowed. There's actually a format of how objections must be made and said. There are some states that actually get really hardcore. If you are rude with your objections, just rude with your demeanor, you can get in trouble. So you put that on your record. But if this crap with the talking objections where they're just really tipping off the deponent, none of that. Say, hey, that's a talking objection. What is your objection? You build up a couple of those on the record, you can show the court. And he'll know, he or she'll know what you're doing, and that's okay. Again, put on the record everything you want the court to see that they're doing wrong. Important, know your case better than, know their defense or their offense better than they know themselves. And it's not hard. Most collection attorneys, and certainly a lot of the opponents I depose, don't know the case very well. And so take advantage of that. Be the man, if you will. Be the gal, be the girl, be the strong person that knows this case. Because that attorney, a lot of times, reports back to their client about you. A lot of my stuff is all about me. Sometimes I'll be in court and arguing a case, and they're attacking me, not my case. So if you make a good showing, they report that back to their client, and the client will go, I don't want to deal with this, settle this bad boy. So just make sure you're doing everything well, everything strong, and put on a good showing. And you have to, there's an approach I want you to take now. If you get a really good answer that's going to help you in your defense, but you need a little bit more, you got to be careful about going in too much. Because if, as I said before, you get too curious to his ears, to her or his ears, why does he keep asking that? Because if he wakes up and hears this, they may start sending their deponent, their client, information or clues not to answer further or even fix the previous answer. So that goes along with the line of, once you get it, get the heck out of there, because you avoid rehab. A lot of times I'll hear a great answer from me and I've got more questions, but I notice, and again, I'm going to say, the other side is asleep or working on their phone or something. I will get the hell out of there, because even though I wanted more, there was something, that's such a good, and again, you've got to keep an eye on the room. You've got to be observant. If you get a good response, get the heck out of there. Protect the transcript. Make sure it shows what you're asking, what the other side's doing wrong or being rude about. And remember, once you have, this is the number one thing, you got to have goals, but once you have what you want, what do? That's right, you get the hell out of there. All right? So depositions can be fun. They can be short, as long as you remember to have your goals and objectives. Remember who, what, why, where, and when. Be curious. Be a strong mode. Make sure you're sort of an alpha person. And most attorneys, once you push back, will just leave you alone. But don't do it the other way. Do not. If somebody objects to something, just keep moving on. You're done. So be strong, be curious, and have goals, and you will win your deposition. Thank you very much.